Welcome to today's BOC Group Product Know-How. I'm glad you're all here. The topic of today's webinar is ADOIT 10.0 Unboxed, a new benchmark for your EA experience. My name is Samia, and I'll be your host today. As an expert on the topic, I'd like to introduce my colleague Eugenio, who will lead you through the content-related part of the webinar. Before we get started, I'd like to give you a brief overview of the activities of the BOC Group. The BOC Group was founded in 1995 as a spin-off to the University of Vienna, and today has more than 230 employees in 8 countries. We sell our products, implementation projects, and consulting services in more than 50 countries, building on with the support of a strong partner network. We are proud that nearly 100,000 users of our free community editions have registered worldwide. With over 20 years in IT-based management domains, we now have more than 35,000 installations of our commercial software products in companies around the world. As part of the BOC Management Office Suite, we offer 2 main flagship products: the well-known ADOIT for business process management, analysis, and optimization, and ADOIT for IT management and enterprise architecture. We also have an additional module, GRC, for governance, risk, and compliance. These products embrace a powerful and common platform, allowing users to run a variety of analytics and reports, as well as assess risks all through a web-based approach. The platform also allows for a high level of flexibility in terms of both configuration and customization. Our international customers and renowned analysts such as Forrester and Gartner have become increasingly aware of us in the recent years, and they're a positive testimony to our developments and our future plans. We're especially proud of our results in the Forrester Wave for Enterprise Architecture Management Suites, where we emerged as a global leader with ADOIT. Please take a few minutes to browse through our reviews and our reports on our website. I'd now like to hand you over to my colleague Eugenio, who is prepared to guide you through today's topic.
Thank you very much for that introduction, Samia. I'd also like to welcome everyone. I'm happy to be sharing the latest news about ADOIT in our latest version 10.0 with all of you. So let me give you a quick introduction into what we're going to be looking at today. We're going to get a quick overview at some of the latest features, right? I'm going to show you some slides highlighting some of those features. Then we're going to go into a live demo showing you those features, seeing what they look like in the tool, seeing what that experience is. And then we're going to summarize with some additional highlights going back to our slides. All right, so let's get started. With ADOIT 10.0, we focused a lot on improving our dashboards, our insights dashboards. With our insights dashboards, what we try to do is to give users the possibility to focus on one object and see everything, or analyze that object in detail, right? That means we can take, for example, one business capability and look at everything surrounding that business capability to try to see if this is a good capability or one that needs improvement, one that needs further investment, one where processes may need to improve or where applications could give better support. So with these dashboards, users will be able to analyze and make those conclusions, not only for capabilities, but with this Dashboards 2.0, we are now able to do that for business objects as well, technologies, and applications, all right? So we're going to be looking at that in the tool, a way that we can get a one-stop shop for each one of our elements. With 10.0, we're also introducing SmartHover. This is a modeling assistant that is simply going to help us model faster and easier. It helps a lot for those users who are getting started with EA or with ADOIT to help them find their way across the modeling landscape. We also introduced a few features around quick access. One of those includes a quick access panel where users are going to be able to find all of those objects and models which they recently used or which are part of their favorites. Okay, so that just for example, when you log out and log back into ADOIT, you'll be able to find in that recent model and recent object section all of those elements which you have used recently without having to look through the folder structure for them again. Drag and drop is also a functionality which we extended. We already supported drag and drop in many different ways, for example, dragging and dropping elements into a model or to create relations. but we've extended that so that it's more intuitive and also so that it's easier to drag and drop elements from a user's desktop into ADOIT directly, okay? We've also consolidated our menus to make them, or optimized our context menus, just to make them easier to use, a little bit more condensed and easier to navigate with. And we'll look at a few of the other accessibility improvements in the tool as well. So let's actually jump into ADOIT. There's a lot I want to show you, so I want to dive in right away. As you can see, I log in with my web browser, and we're going to be using one of our power users, which means that this user will have access to the full functionality of ADOIT using all the different roles and scenarios, okay? What we see when we initially sign in is our 3 scenarios, which are basically our 3 entry points into what we want to do in ADOIT. Do we want to design and document our architecture? Do we want to control and release, which means something which has been submitted into the review workflow? This is a scenario which we would use to control it, basically to review it, to make sure that all of the mandatory attributes are filled out, to make sure that all the information in there is accurate. And obviously, if it is ready for release, we can go ahead and do that. This is a scenario which also helps us control versioning, change history, and publishing, okay? Or lastly, we can go into govern and manage. This is where we do a lot of the analysis. This is where we get a lot of the stakeholder dashboards to give us a big picture of the current state of our architecture, okay? So let's start with design and document. And let's think of ourselves as, for example, an application owner. So when this application owner signs into ADOIT, one of the first things that they see is this dashboard called My Architecture Artifacts. And this is a dashboard that is tailored for every single user. That means that the elements that I see here are elements that are under my responsibility. So if I were to click on any one of these elements, for example, this business capability, I can look at the notebook of the capability and find that under organization, we see my user as a person responsible, and that is why it appears in my dashboard. This happens not only for the capabilities, for every other object that I am responsible for, it will appear in my dashboard, making sure that it's easily accessible to the user who is responsible for it. As I am responsible for it, I have to make sure that every one of my elements is always up to date, right? I'm obviously not going to be able to update them every single day, but I do have this traffic light system that is going to remind me when I need to update elements. For example, something that is currently green, something that is currently up to date, will turn yellow, let's say after 90 days. This is telling me that I soon need to think about updating or analyzing what updates needs to happen for this application. And obviously when it turns to red, it is telling me that this is something that is basically outdated. Maybe 120 days have gone by, and my administrators have told me that I need to update my elements every 120 days at least. So that's why it goes back to, or it goes into a red marker. So this traffic light system basically is a reminder system counting the number of days since I last updated an element to help me see how up to date my information is, okay? Other widgets that I see here as an application owner are, for example, the recent changes, where I can see what has happened since I last logged in or what has happened since last week. So I can see that, for example, there's been a few objects that have changed, a few objects that have been created, no new models, no changes to our existing models, and no comments right now. Okay, and I can also see the tasks on the left side. Tasks that have been assigned to me or tasks that I may have assigned to other users will be visible here. This would also show me tasks that the system has assigned to me, for example, related to a review that I need to carry out, okay? Other things that I have access to here are, for example, creating new elements, new repository elements, like I can create a new application, a new technology, a new database, and so on. These are all going to be reusable elements that are going to appear then in my repository. Any element which I create should be stored here in my repository under the correct folder. This folder structure is something that I can choose how it will be structured, how many levels it will have, and what the name of each folder will be. Ultimately, it is going to help me organize my repository. In this case, for example, we see the business capabilities for this example. Okay, so this is our object repository. We also have a model repository where, again, we store our diagrams, our models in any way that we like, whatever makes it easier for our users to find them. Okay. So this is not any new functionality, but I do want to show you the new functionality, which is the quick access. This is what I was mentioning earlier, where we can find those elements which we have accessed recently, that those may include models or objects. Okay, for example, this capability that I opened just now. And I can also find my favorites, any object or any model, which I want to mark as my favorite, so that I have quick access to it anytime I want. Okay. Some other things that we see quickly, just to give you a quick overview of the interface, we have the search bar over here, which is obviously going to help us find any object, any model, maybe something contained in a description or in the name of something, to quickly do that search and analysis. We also have this filter, the time filter or the state filter, which is going to allow me to, for example, filter my whole repository to a specific date. Let's say 2024, October 1st. If I were to apply this filter, it would basically make sure or put us in a point in time of October 1st, 2024, and it would hide everything that will not be valid in that date. So let's imagine that we are doing some 2B planning of our architecture, and we want to plan for 2024. Applying this filter will help me make sure that everything that I add to my models or to my planning are elements that are valid in 2024, and I will know that none of those our applications which we plan to retire, for example, in 2022, are going to be shown in my models. Okay. Okay, so let's create a new application. I can do that very quickly by using that quick link of create application, and we're going to call an application called CRM system. Okay, with this application, obviously, right now it is an empty template of an application, so we have the possibility to fill out, to use all of these different chapters to add information. For example, and in this case, we're going to start off by adding a description. Okay, we can see that there's a little red asterisk next to the description, and that is telling me that this is a mandatory attribute. So all of my users should quickly see this and realize that this is an attribute that I need to fill out. So I can say, this is the application which we use to manage customers. Okay, once I fill that description out, we can see that that asterisk is no longer red. It is now marked in a black color. Okay, there's a lot of information that I can fill out. I can choose what I want to fill out and what information I have available. We can scan through the different chapters, for example, go to organization, and I can see that there's also an attribute called responsible person that is also mandatory. So I will fill it out with my user here as well. Okay. And we can go through the different chapters, for example, identifying capabilities, business functions, and so on. And here's where we can highlight one of the new functionalities in ADOIT, which is dragging and dropping into the notebook. Before, what we had to do when we wanted to create a relation between, for example, a business function and an application, is that I had to find the exact attribute where that business function should be added and drag and drop it into that field. What we have now is that I can be in any field, okay, or in any chapter of the notebook, drag and drop the business function into my application notebook, and it will recognize on its own that this is a supported business function, so I can just drop it into that field, and it will go directly to where it should be added, okay? I can do the same thing, for example, with a technology. Let's find some technologies over here. So I don't have to be in the right chapter. I don't have to be in the right section of the notebook. I can just, for example, find a supported technology. Let's say it uses Internet Explorer, and it will take me to that section right away and create that relation very easily, okay? Now, you may see that there are certainly a lot of chapters, a lot of information that we can add here, and it could sometimes be a little bit overwhelming. And that is why we introduced the property filters. We have now moved the location of the property filter. It is now up here at the top of the chapters where it used to be before as a button over here. So now we have the possibility to, for example, switch to a standard view, and you can see that some of the chapters are hidden. If we go to a compact view, a few more of those chapters are hidden. This is a filter that administrators can configure. They can choose the name of the filter, the amount of filters that we have here, but more importantly, what should be contained in each of the filters. For example, if the compact filter, we want to hide a few more things For example, we don't want deployment or we don't want costs and licenses as part of the compact filter. That is something that our administrators can configure, okay? Some of the other features that we have around this notebook are, for example, this share button. This is something that we previously had, and it was called generate URL. Now we have it as this share button that quickly creates that URL. We just change that little icon. It's something that most of our users are now familiar with from any other applications, or mainly web applications, okay? And then the other thing I mentioned was that we optimized our context menus. As you can see, our context menu, for those of you that have seen our tool before, has been greatly reduced. It still contains all of the same possibilities, but now they're sort of organized in different sections. For example, we have over here in open where we can access insights and table. In the reports, we can access our views, HTML publishing, analyze dependencies. And if we go to more, we'll be able to find possibilities such as translation, integration, synchronizations, things like that are usually going to be stored in this section of more, okay? All right, so now what I'd like to do is I'd like to create a diagram to show you how some of our modeling features have also been improved. So let's go ahead and create over here a landscape for our CRM system. And we're going to drag and drop our CRM system into that landscape. Let's just search for it. There we go. And here we go. Okay, so one of the first things that you might notice when we look at this landscape is that this modeling toolbar has been expanded. Before we had something that looked a little something like this, where we could scroll down to find whatever we're looking for. Now we give users the possibility to expand that toolbar and look at all the elements that are available in a easier way. I guess this is a little bit faster to find whatever you're looking for. And we also implement a filter here, where you can, for example, filter for the business architecture. You can find the technology architecture very quickly, transformation, or just go to all classes, okay? So this is the modeling toolbar that we now changed or tweaked a little bit just to make it easier for our users to find. The other thing that I mentioned as an extension is hover modeling. And let me show you what that looks like. Anytime you click on an element, this sort of fan or hover modeling assistant will appear. And what that is basically showing me the most logical next element that I could add as a relation. Okay, for example, here we're looking at an application. So the next step would be to add, for example, a relation to an interface or to a capability, maybe to a technology. So the application is in a way predicting what could be the next possible element that you might want to relate to this application. Okay, we have other options here as well, an extended menu, or we have the possibility to, for example, run a validation, to select this object in the Explorer, or if we click on this sort of options, we have the possibility to share, to move it to front or back, to analyze dependencies, to open the properties, and so on. So this hover modeling assistant really helps me model faster, find what I'm looking for faster. In this case, for example, I could create an interface. And when I select interface, it's going to give me the option of what connector I want to have. For example, is this an interface that we're providing, or is this an interface that we're using? Let's say it's an interface that we provide, and let's give it a name. We're going to call it CRM Read Interface. Okay, so there we have a new interface. Okay, now one of the other extensions that we have along with the drag and drop is we can create relations between elements. We already saw that we can open the notebook of an element and we can drag and drop an element or an object into here. For example, I can say that this is an incoming relation, okay? Or alternatively, what I want to show you is that we can drag and drop it into the model, place it on top of the element which I want to relate it to, and you'll see that there's this little blue highlight that appears on top of it. And there I can choose to add a relation. Let me do that again. Okay, so there I can choose if it's a provided or used interface. In this case, it's going to be a used interface. And I now have a full description of my CRM system, the interface which it provides, and then I have another system which uses this interface. Of course, everything that we do in these graphical models is not just lines and shapes. It's something that is part of the notebook and part of the definition. So if I were to open the notebook of, for example, this interface, and look at the applications, I will see both applications in the notebook, the CRM system, which is providing the interface, and the business partner system, which is using the interface, okay? So everything that I do model in the modeling landscape is reflected in the notebooks as well, okay? All right, so let's actually now show you. Let's continue with the drag and drop functionality, because now I want to show you how we can drag and drop elements from our desktop, okay? So let's just open this folder. So here I have a few elements in my desktop, right? For example, I have the logo of ADOIT, and what I might want to do is introduce that logo into our landscape, just to maybe make it look nice. Maybe it's a diagram that we had in our workshop that I want to add here. Maybe it's a background image that I want to have. Any image that I want to have, I can simply drag and drop it into ADOIT, and that will create that image right away. I'm just going to tweak it a little bit just to make sure and the aspect ratio looks good. There we go. And then, of course, we can resize it however we want without changing the aspect ratio, and we can easily add images into ADOIT now. What else can we add from our desktop? Documents. I can simply drag and drop a document from any folder in my desktop, and that will create a document object. As you can see, the name is filled out right away, as well as attaching the document here. We can see that. Let me go to reader view. The user manual, in this case, a PDF, has been attached, and any one of my users now has access to download this document from ADOIT. So this is another way to just quickly upload elements into ADOIT. It's our effort to make sure ADOIT continues to be more intuitive, okay? I can drag and drop documents into a modeling landscape, and this will obviously create an object this way, or I can also drag and drop them into my repository. I can choose a specific folder, drag and drop it into there, and it will also create a document. In this case, it's not adding it to a landscape, it's just creating the document in the repository. But again, it automatically sets a name for it, and it automatically uploads that document into my repository, okay? All right. So let's look at the Insights dashboards now. One of the most exciting things that we're introducing with this version. So to access one of my first Insights dashboard, I'm going to open the notebook of this application. And if I want to look at it in more detail, that's when I access my Insights dashboard. Of course, I could also add it very quickly to my favorites there, but then add it to or open the Insights dashboard for this application. Now, what we're looking at right now is a dashboard dedicated to one single application in this case. Every single application in ADOIT will have its own dashboard, and each dashboard will contain different things depending on what information is available. For example, in this case, we see that we have at the very top our first widget, surrounding applications. So that means that Business Partner is our application, which is actually receiving data from these three applications. We can see that CRM system already appears there. And we can also see that Business Partner is sharing data or has interfaces with all of these other applications. Now, this is something that I didn't have to do. ADOIT recognizes the interfaces. It recognizes which applications are using those interfaces and creates views like this one for me. Now, if we want to see this sort of information in more detail, we can go down here and we can see the actual interfaces which are being used. For example, we can see that there's 3 interfaces which are provided by these applications that Business Partner is using. And I can also see that Business Partner provides some interfaces which other applications are actually consuming. Okay, so this helps me see what is the impact, what are the other sort of indirect dependencies that might be there other than just my interfaces. Okay, if we go down in this dashboard, we get a view at basically the health, the score of my application in terms of IT fit, cost fit, business continuity, and so on. Right? So as an application owner, it's good for me to have visibility of this. For example, it helps me identify those which we may need to work on, right? What else do we see? The next widget is our redundancy analysis. This is a new widget that we added, and it's very helpful because it allows me to see which applications sort of overlap in terms of the business functions that they provide with my application, okay? For example, I can see that Partner System is another application. And what this widget tells me is that Partner System provides all of these functions which overlap with the functions that my application provides. So this would help me, first of all, realize that, okay, we have applications which provide the same functionality, and that will help us then try to analyze and decide if we could retire one or the other application, or perhaps take over some of that functionality from that application. Okay, so this redundancy analysis focusing on business functions and helping identify where we have that overlap. Okay. What else do we see in this insights dashboard for this application? It's lifecycle. So we can see, for example, when this application started implementation, when it went into production, we can see a marker for today's date, and we can see the planned decommissioning date. So we can see that we still have a ways to go. We still have some time to plan a replacement or an extension for this application's lifecycle. We can also see the state of this application, in this case, in development, and the strategy. In this case, we have 5 stars, which means we are investing in this application. Let's continue into this dashboard, and now we see the information flow widget. What this tells me is basically how is data flowing between the one application and another. Okay, so these are all of our data, or not all, some of our data objects which are applicable for this application. And I can click on one of them to see how, for example, private customer data is flowing from some applications to others, or from one application to another. We can take, for example, tax audit, and we can see how it flows from partner system to these other applications. So this is a nice widget to see how data is flowing. And then down here, we can see how that data has also scored. We can see those same data objects, who's responsible for each of them, and how they have scored in terms of availability, integrity, and confidentiality. Of course, the higher these bars are, the more important or sensitive it will be, or the more priority we need to give to those data elements. And lastly, we see the used technologies for this application. In this case, we have 3 technologies. One of them is actually obsolete. So we could think about a replacement here. And we can see the same thing over here. We can see that we have 1 obsolete, 2 active standard technologies. And then at the very bottom, we have quick access to create any views, for example, an impact analysis view, an interface report, Gantt, and so on. So this is the insights dashboard for an application. Okay. We already had an insights dashboard in our previous release. However, with this release, we have extended it into insights dashboard 2.0, where we introduced a little bit more functionality. All right. Let's look at a dashboard now for a technology. All right. This is a new dashboard. We didn't have a technology dashboard before. And in this one, we can see things like the technology's life cycle. Okay. For example, we can see this is today's date. It looks like we're about halfway through this technology's life cycle. We can see if we have any alternative technologies. For example, we can see that Windows 7 would be an alternative. We can see how many applications are assigned to Windows 7 and 4. Perhaps those 4 are ones which we should think of moving to Windows 10. And then here we can see all the applications which are using Windows 10, the technology that we're currently analyzing. We can see their lifecycle state. We can see their investment strategy, right? If we were to see a lot of applications which we are investing in, this is obviously then a technology that we should continue maintaining, right? If we see that the investment strategy is very low, or that the life cycle is retired for a lot of these, then perhaps we could think about retiring this technology as well. Okay, so that's our technology dashboard. Depending on what information is available, certain widgets may be hidden or shown. For example, in this case, we don't have a technology which is replacing Windows 10. Therefore, the replaced by widget is hidden. But if I go to Windows 7, for example, you will see that we have alternative technologies, Windows 10, and we can also see that this application was replaced by Windows 10. Okay, so that widget is shown, and we can see the 4 applications which are using Windows 7 in this case. Okay, so that's the Insights dashboard for our applications and for our technologies. Let's look at the Insights dashboard for our business objects and our business capabilities now. Okay, let's start with the business capability and look at its Insights dashboard. Again, it's supposed to give us an idea of how is this element performing. In this case, this business capability, we can see its strategic importance, IT support, cost fit, and so on, right? So this helps me see if this is a capability that perhaps we should invest more on, or that it's quite good already, right? And when we want to think of investing more on or improving a capability, we usually think of two things: processes and applications. And that is exactly what we will see in this dashboard. We see the 4 processes in this case, which are supporting this capability, okay? And each of those processes has also been individually scored in terms of cost efficiency, cycle time, customer satisfaction, and so on. And we can see how those scores can all be grouped together to give us a view of the general process health in terms of this business capability. So I would conclude that we're doing pretty well. There's definitely some things that we could improve, for example, IT support, or maybe it looks like everything else is doing quite well. Maybe IT support is the one that needs the most help. Or if we focus a little bit deeper, it would probably be accounting, which we want to improve more. Now, if we go down, we will find a similar analysis, but now for our applications. We can see that there's actually 2 applications supporting this capability. This is just a duplicate of Business Partner because it's a draft. And we can see that Business Partner is in development, Partner System is in production. In this case, actually, Business Partner is going to be replacing Partner System. As you can see, Partner System was not giving us very good support at all for this capability. We have very bad cost fit, IT fit, business fit, and so on, which is why we're introducing Business Partner, an application which is supporting us a lot better. Cost fit is still not the best score, obviously, because we're investing in it. So we probably have a large investment there as well. What else do we see around this capability? Well, we see some projects that are related to it. For example, we know that we're introducing Business Partner. So here we have the project implementation of Business Partner. And we might have other projects related to this capability where we can see their risk, their priority, and their budget, right? We have some quick graphics over here to help us see the size of our projects, or similarly, the size of those demands. Demands are the ones that are usually used sort of to justify our projects or encourage our projects. So here we have a few demands that are almost related to one-to-one to these projects. We also see business objects related to our business capability and how they have scored. We saw a little bit of this earlier. And the organizational units which are actually required to support this business capability, in this case, business customers and private customers, okay? And lastly, quick access to some quick analysis used like an impact analysis or things like that. Last business insights dashboard that I want to show you is the one related to data. In this case, I selected one business object, our partner data. And what this dashboard is going to show us is all of the applications which use or interact with this data. We can see how they have scored. Why does it matter how those applications have scored? Well, obviously, if we see one application like this one that is quite weak in all of its scores, specifically in security or information fit, that's probably one application that we want to pay attention to with regards to how it handles our data, okay? Now, if we go down here, we have a crude analysis where we can see the applications which actually have create, read, update, and delete access to my data. We can also see the applications which are marked as the masters of our data. So in this case, we could see that Business Partner is master of this data, as well as Partner System. Why do we have 2 masters? In this case, because we're migrating from one to another. We can see that the masters can update, read, and delete the data. And then we have other applications which are simply reading the data here, okay? Again, we see the data flows, right? So we can see how data is flowing from one application to another. And so that's a nice way to analyze the data flows. And lastly, the score for our confidentiality, integrity, and availability, okay? So those are our insights dashboards. Very colorful, very insightful for each of the elements. And the nice thing about them is that we will continue to add additional functionalities, additional widgets to these. If you have integrations such as a ServiceNow integration, you will find those insights related to ServiceNow in these dashboards as well, okay? All right, so to finish off our quick demo, I want to go into Govern and Manage just to give you a quick view at some of the dashboards that are available here. These were already in ADOIT. I just want to show you some of the functionality around them. This is the main Govern and Manage dashboard. And this gives me a we call this the CIO view, because this gives me an overview of not only applications or business capabilities separately, but it puts it all together. So it shows you, for example, some statistics around the applications, around the capabilities. We have some statistics around risks and technologies as well, right? And if I want to go deeper into any of these areas, for example, technologies, I can click here and go directly into the technologies dashboard, where I will find all of our technologies with their insights dashboard. I will find, for example, just my technologies and look at the usage of my technology. See how much certain technologies are used by how many applications. For example, this technology, Windows Server 2012, is used by 7 applications, sorry. And I'm able to identify which ones those might be, okay? So that's our technologies dashboard. I could look at our applications dashboard. This is a dashboard dedicated for application owners. Earlier, we saw the insights dashboard for one application, but what we see here is the dashboard for all of our applications put together. Okay, so we can see their life cycles. We can see just my applications. So you'll see that the pies change a little bit when we look at my applications versus all applications. Hopefully, the ones that I am responsible for are doing a little bit better than the ones that the whole organization has. Okay. Last thing I want to show you is the Knowledge Center. We recently improved the Knowledge Center. This is where BOC shares additional knowledge with all of our customers. So as you can see, the Knowledge Center is integrated into ADOIT. And this is where you will find tutorial videos, sample content, webinars, and additional information to basically get you more familiar with ADOIT or enterprise architecture. So for example, we could look at, let's quickly look at our tutorial videos. Here you will find quick videos, sometimes 30 seconds, 1 minute, helping you review or learn new functionality. For example, how to create a model using SmartHover, how to search for repository objects, how to upload images, or maybe some more advanced scenarios. For example, how to use the model filter, how to create an application roadmap, and so on. So those are our tutorial videos, very quick and easy to watch. We can also look at our sample content, where we will find an example of ADO Money Bank, showing you basically how we approach a business capability map, what it could look like, what you could include in there, where you can find that example. We can click next and find our application landscape, giving you a brief overview of what is going on in our example. You can go to next, see how you can use an insights dashboard to do application portfolio management and so on. So this just guides you through sort of a quick demo into how you can demonstrate different things using ADOIT, okay? And of course, we have access in our Knowledge Center to free webinars. There we go. You can search for a specific term, or you can scroll down here, look at some of our webinars that are featured, or maybe filter by topic. For example, let's filter for all enterprise architecture webinars in English, and we find webinars around technology portfolio management, compliance management, your applications catalog, Archimate, and so on. So these are all on-demand webinars that you can watch at any time. They've already been recorded. The last thing I want to show you is the marketplace. This is something else that we have released, and it is a way for us to share additional functionalities to you, some add-ons and things like that. So in this marketplace, you'll be able to quickly find, for example, integrations to Confluence, our REST API integrations, applications which we're releasing, or plugins to or integrations to ServiceNow. So each of these you can obviously click on to find more information, find the specifications of, in this case, for example, the ServiceNow integration, see how ServiceNow could help you improve your application portfolio management, look at the different use cases that we have around ServiceNow, some of the main features, and even some documentation to help you identify if you are the right candidate for ServiceNow. So that's all found in the marketplace. This is a new initiative that we have, and it will obviously be growing over time to provide additional functionality to you. Okay, let me go back to our slides to wrap it up with a quick summary of what we saw today. So today we saw the Insights Dashboards 2.0. We saw added functionality to our applications and business capabilities dashboards, as well as new dashboards for the business objects and for the technologies. We also saw how we can use SmartHover, a more intuitive way of modeling, easy way of modeling that gives you quick access to the next object that you may want to add to your landscape. We saw the quick access panel, which gives you the possibility to find your favorites or to save time finding what you recently worked on. So it's just another way to make ADOIT more intuitive. And then we saw the drag and drop functions, whether we're dragging and dropping to create relations in the notebook or in a model, dragging and dropping elements from our desktop like images, or dragging and dropping documents from our desktop, whether they're Excel, Word, PDF, all of that can be simply dropped into our repository or into a model. Okay, some additional features that we added to ADOIT 10.0 are, for example, an extension to the audit log for user administration. So that means that all of your administrators working in the administration toolkit are obviously making changes every now and then. So now we make sure we keep logs of who did what changes and when those changes were done, so that we can keep track of what those changes may be. We continue to improve accessibility. We also extended our management office integration. So this means our integration between ADOIT and our BPM solution Adonis. We continue to improve that integration to make sure it's more flexible and has more functionality. Of course, we also adjusted the modeling toolbar to make it adjustable in terms of size. We simplified the Excel import as well. That's something we didn't see today, but it is something that we are working on continuously. We enable, we give the possibility to enable or disable the time filter for specific roles. So the time filter is the one that allows us to filter our repository in a specific point in time. So this is something that we can now enable or disable for some of our users. And we continue to improve our integration framework. This is the one that we use basically to integrate with ServiceNow, with Technopedia, with Confluence, with Jira, with any of our other integrations, okay? If you're interested in learning more, feel free to visit our website where you will find the What's New section, and you will get a summary of what you saw today, as well as some videos. If you want a personalized demo, feel free to contact us through our website as well, where we can arrange a personalized demo for you and a couple of more stakeholders in your organization, okay? If you want to test all of what you saw today in a 30-day free trial, feel free to sign up for those trials in our website, where you will be able to test the full functionality of what you saw today with a team of colleagues, all getting access to the same environment, okay? So that's basically it for me. I just want to tell you about some of the other webinars that we have available. We have some webinars regarding how you can get started with your enterprise architecture. We also have a webinar which introduces technology portfolio management, and then one which also helps you see how you can harness the 21st century crown jewel in terms of data portfolio management. Okay, so these are some of the webinars that we've already hosted and you can find on our website. All right, so that wraps it up for me. So in that case, I will hand over to Samia, my colleague, so that she can give us the last remarks.
Thank you, Eugenio. I'm happy to see that so many people took part today. I hope that we can meet your expectations. Don't forget to subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about free events and interesting news. It would be great to receive your feedback on this webinar, so you'll receive an email from us in the coming days. On behalf of Eugenio and I wish you all a pleasant day.